Hey, what's up? I'm Norris and welcome back to another sew along. Now, when you see me, just know your girl Mimi is busy. And today we'll be doing her latest Simplicity pattern sew along, which is 9945. And we're doing view B, the jumpsuit. Now, if you're new to sewing, I just need to brush up on your skills a bit. You can go to sewitacademy.com, go ahead and do the free trial, come back and sew along with us. Okay, once again, like I said, we'll be using Mimi's 9945 pattern and we'll be doing view B, which is the jumpsuit. Now, if you turn to the back, you have fabric suggestions up here to the top. And then please don't forget, once you look at your body measurements, depending on what size you have, the finished garment measurement is going to tell you exactly how that's going to fit once you sew it up, just so you know whether you should go a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. Okay, so now we're going to go through all the pattern pieces that we need to cut. So you're going to need pattern piece number 10, which is your pants front. And this is view B. You want to cut 2. Pattern piece number 11, this is your pants back, view B. You want to cut 2 of these. Then we have pattern piece number 1. This is your bodice front. Now this is for A and B, depending on which one you're doing. And you want to cut 2 of fabric, 2 of lining, and 2 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 3, this is your back strap. You want to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 4, your fabric cut 1, lining cut 1, and interfacing cut 1. Pattern piece number 5. Now this is your bodice left back, and then this is for A and B as well. Cut 1 of fabric, cut 1 of lining, and 1 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 2. Now this is your bodice side front, A and B. Cut 2 of fabric, 2 of lining, and 2 of interfacing. And then last but not least, you have pattern piece number 8. This is your front facing. You want to cut 1 of fabric on the fold and 1 of interfacing on the fold. And then pattern piece number 9 is your back facing. You want to cut 1 on the fold of fabric and 1 on the fold of interfacing. Okay, so now once you cut all your pattern pieces out of your fabric, your lining and interfacing, we can begin sewing. Okay, so before we start, you want to take your bodice side piece and we're going to stay stitch on this corner here at the very bottom, about 1 inch up and then 1 inch up this way. And then we're going to make a little slit right in the corner, just like this, okay? Now once you do that, we're going to turn this right side facing. We do it this way. And we're going to pin, matching up those notches. So it should be a notch on both sides. We're going to pin. Okay. Now, because this is a curve, we might do some slits here on the front bodice piece. Now when we do that, this can spread around the curve here and we can pin. Okay, so now let's head to the machine. We're going to stitch from one end all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so moving along, I went ahead and pressed that seam open, as you can see here. And now we're going to go ahead and attach our bodice right back. Now this is the longer one, and you should have a notch that matches right up to that side. And then also we're going to go ahead and take our strap. Now there should be a notch at the top to attach here. And so you'll know which strap goes to what side. The point should go towards the middle here, okay? So let me go ahead and pin up here as well. Okay, so now let's head to the machine. We're going to stitch here using 5/8 of an inch and then across the top. Now go ahead and press both seams open. Okay, so we're back from the machine. Our whole right side of our bodice is almost complete. We have the strap, we have the front, we have the side, and then we also have the back. Now with the lining, you want to put it together the same exact way. And then once you get your lining, we're going to line it up and we're going to pin across the center and also with the strap. So you want to match up the seam here first. Okay, now head to the machine, go ahead and stitch all the way down, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so now that we went ahead and stitched across the center front, let's go ahead and do some understitching. Now we're going to leave the seam allowance towards the right, and we're going to stitch on the lining side, right on the right side of that seam, just less than 1/4 inch. Okay, now that we're back from the machine, we have the understitching. Now we're going to flip this back onto itself, and we're going to pin along this side here, and then just here, leaving the bottom open here, okay? So let's go ahead and match up these seams and start pinning. Okay, so before we head to the machine, we're going to start here, stitch all the way down, and we're going to stop at that first dot. Back stitch, break our threads. We're going to continue at the other dot. This right here is to put our strap into, and then we're going to continue, pivot, go around, pivot again, and go all the way until we get here to the bottom, and then this right here is going to be left open. All right, so let's head to the machine. Okay, so I'm actually starting at the bottom here. I'm going to back stitch. Pivot. Pivot again. Now this is our first dot. You want to back stitch. Cut that thread. Shift over to the other dot. Okay, now we're back from the machine. Let's go ahead and trim some of these seams. Okay, now let's turn it right side out. Point out your corners. All right, now go take this to your pressing table and give it a really good press. And then you want to go ahead, put your left piece, it's on the right here, but this is the left. You want to put it together the same exact way. And before you attach the lining to it, I'm going to show you what we're going to do right before pinning it together, okay? So go ahead and give it a good press, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the pressing table, as you can see. Now, because this goes like this, remember we left that little opening. Now you can just put that in there and adjust it, and then you can just add stitch it right to the top, and that will keep that secured, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and pin it for right now until we're able to fit it for her. And then I'm just gonna put it to the side. Now, with our left side, you should have cut 1 3/8 of an inch of skinny elastic. I didn't have any but the 1/4 inch, so I'm gonna make this work. So what we're gonna do is, you want to turn it just like this. Turn it just like that. Okay, so I made a mistake earlier. When we do with the elastic, the raw edge is supposed to be facing the raw edge here, okay? And you want to give yourself about a 1/4 inch from the edge, and you want to pin that just like this, okay? So the loop is supposed to be towards the inside, and the flat edge is supposed to be towards the end, okay? So go ahead and place the rest of them the same exact way and baste them down. So when you baste them, it's supposed to be just like this. Now you can continue to the next step. Take your lining and you want to pin it and sew it the same exact way we did the other one, making sure that we leave that opening here between our dots for the straps. and then also at the bottom. Okay, so we're back for the machine. As you can see, we have our elastic like this right here on the left side. So now that we have this here, now remember we have that opening there. That's where you want to tuck it in, make your adjustments, and then we'll add stitch it to the top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one back and one front. Now you want to go ahead and make your darts. Now with darts, you should know you backstitch at the beginning, but not the end. You tie a knot, and then also you want to stay stitch across the top. Then also you want to press your seam towards the center back or the center front, depending on if it's the front or the back. So now let's go ahead and grab one of our fronts and then one of our backs, and we're going to match up. Make sure that you have the centers facing the same way, and we're going to go ahead and pin on the center, on the inside seam. Okay, so go ahead and lay your pant leg down. There should be a notch, and then after you do that, you want to continue all the way to the top and then to the bottom. Okay, so head to the machine and go ahead and stitch this down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so now that we're back from the machine, as you can see, we went ahead and attached and then pressed that seam open down here to the bottom. And then you want to do the other one the same way. And then now we're going to pin across the inside. So you want to pin that seam first. That should be 2 notches for the front and then 3 notches for the back. Okay, now head to the machine. We're going to stitch all the way down through the seam and then up the other end using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, we went ahead and pressed that middle seam open on the front and also the back. And I've already pinned. So on the right side, which is on the left, when you turn the right side out, this is going to be the right side. But so right here on the right side, I pin, and you want to stitch all the way down to the hem using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance using a regular straight stitch. And then on the left side, which is on the right here, and like I said, once you turn the right side out, this will be the left side. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a basting stitch up until we get to the notch. And then we're going to cut our threads, backstitch, cut your threads, and then we're going to do a regular stitch all the way down to the hem, okay? So let's go ahead and go to the machine, and I'll show you how to do this one, and then we can do this one the same exact way minus the basting stitch at the top. Okay, so we're doing a basting stitch here. I'm just going to backstitch just once. Now this is going to be for our zipper. Cut your threads. Okay, now you want to change your stitch to a regular stitch. Okay, so now continue all the way down to the hem using a regular stitch, 5/8 of an inch away from the edge. Okay, so now you want to sew the other side the same exact way, minus the basting stitch at the top. You want to do a regular stitch all the way from the top to the bottom on the other side. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and on the side that we did the basting, right here, which is the left side, you want to go ahead and grab your invisible zipper. And as you can see, it's better to have a longer one so you'll have room up on the machine. And then you want the top of the zipper coils to be 3/8 of an inch away from the edge, okay? So with the zipper facing down, you want to match it up in between that seam. And 3/4 of an inch, you want to make sure that zipper pull is right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin it in place just on one side, making sure that we keep it in the center of that seam. Okay, now let's go ahead to the machine. We're going to base both sides down, both seams, and then we're going to get close to the coils to make the invisible zipper invisible. Okay, so we're only working on just the seam allowance on one side, and that's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and just base this down and make sure you switch over to your zipper foot. Okay, now let's switch this around, and we're gonna do the same exact thing, but to the other side. Make sure that the zipper, the center of the zipper is in the center of that seam. Okay, so now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and remove the basting stitch. Okay, and then we can unzip it, and then you can unzip it past where we stitched at. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lay it right back down, but this time we're going to open up these zipper coils and switch over to a regular length stitch, and we're going to get as close as we can to the coils without stitching through them. Now if you like to, you can switch back over to your regular presser foot. If you want to use the zipper foot, you can, but I just like the pressure that this one gives you. And then you'll see it's right there where the coils are at. So you want to do the other side the same exact way. Okay, we're back from the machine. Go ahead and take your zipper and pull it through. And then on the other side, it should be invisible just like that. Okay, so we can cut this off a little bit later. I can go ahead and tack that down. So let's go ahead and finish up this jumpsuit. Turn it right side out. Okay, we're facing the front. Okay, so we should have some notches here. You want to grab your bodice now. Now this right here goes right there, matching up those notches. And you want to pin through all layers. And then the same thing to the other side. Okay, so go ahead and base across the top here and then here, and come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. We went ahead and base this down and put that to the side for right now. And then now we're going to do our facing. Okay, so with the wrong side facing up, you should have this shape right here for the front, and then this for the back looping down. So go ahead and right sides face it and pin, matching up that notch. Go ahead and stitch this across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Press that seam open, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so moving right along, as you can see, we have this, the facing with the pressed seam here. And we want to match this point here right with the center. And we're going to pin. Now there should be notches to match up around the sides. Now you want to unzip that invisible zipper and turn the zipper facing in this way. And then we're going to go ahead and match that up. Okay, just like that. Then we're going to continue pinning. Now before you actually pin this, I probably should have said this before we started. You can serge the bottom of this here if you want a clean finish. Because the fabric doesn't fraze for her, we're just going to do it just like this. But if you do want a cleaner finish, now is the time to do that before we pin it. All right, now there's a side seam here where we have no zipper on the other side. You want to make sure you pin and align that. 2 notches in the back. Now the same thing, you want to turn that zipper in just like this and then pin it. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine. We're going to stitch up, pivot across the top, go all the way through the center front, and then once we get to the other side of the zipper, we're gonna pivot and go down to this side. All right, so let's head to the machine and knock this out. Okay, so on the zipper side, you can use a zipper foot, but I just went ahead and just moved my needle over, so I won't have to do that. But if you want to use a zipper foot, you can. So you want to backstitch at the beginning and also at the end, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now that we're in the center, you want to pivot over, making sure everything is laying flat in the center. Okay, one last pivot. Okay, so now we're back from the machine. I'm just gonna trim this corner down just a little bit. I'm gonna keep most of the seam allowance, especially around the zipper. Trim some of the seam allowance here in the center. Now if you're trimming, don't trim too much because I will be doing understitching. You can understitch this the same as we did the bodice. Okay, so when you understitch, make sure your seam allowance is facing the facing, and then just stitch right on the facing side, just past that seam, okay? So go ahead and do that, and we're gonna give it a really good press, and we'll finish up. All right, so once you turn it right side out, give it a good press. The last thing you need to do is just add your buttons on the right side here, and then they'll hook just like that on the back. And be sure to edge stitch your straps in here after you make those adjustments, and finish up your hem. And when you do that, you're all done. All right, congratulations. Now, I hope you enjoyed this course. Now be sure to tag Mimi at Mimi G Style, and we will see you in the next sew along.